Join us on Patreon and become part of our journey to uncover history's untold stories. Your support helps us create in-depth content, bring hidden narratives to life, and keep history alive for everyone.
In the colorful mosaic of American religious life, few communities have sparked as much intrigue, debate, and introspection as the Black Hebrew Israelites. Emerging from the ashes of slavery and the spiritual yearning of a displaced people, this movement is more than a religious expression. It is a testament to the resilience of cultural identity, a mirror of the African American experience, and a powerful example of the complexities that arise when faith, race, and history intertwine. For over a century, the Black Hebrew Israelite movement has navigated through the currents of social transformation, theological reimagination, and cultural awakening in the United States, carving out a distinctive space that is both rooted in the ancient past and acutely present in the modern American landscape. The story begins in the late 19th century, a period of spiritual revival and religious experimentation in the wake of the Civil War and Reconstruction. During this time, African Americans were reevaluating their identities in the face of newfound, albeit limited, freedom. Christian churches were the primary spiritual homes for most freedmen and their descendants, yet a sense of cultural and historical dislocation lingered. Some African Americans began to explore alternative religious interpretations that offered not only a spiritual refuge, but also a new historical identity that countered the Eurocentric narratives imposed during slavery. One of the earliest known Black Hebrew Israelite congregations was established in 1886 by Frank Cherry, a former seaman who claimed that Black people in the Americas were descendants of the ancient Israelites. Cherry founded the Church of the Living God, the pillar ground of truth for all nations in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Cherry preached that African Americans were the true Hebrews of the Bible, and that mainstream Judaism and Christianity had distorted the scriptures to suppress this truth. His theological messages were radical and racially charged, blending apocalyptic visions with a call for Black self-determination. Not long after, another foundational figure, William Saunders Crowdy, emerged. A former slave and Civil War veteran, Crowdy claimed to have received divine revelations in the 1890s instructing him to proclaim that African Americans were the descendants of the lost tribes of Israel. In 1896, he founded the Church of God and Saints of Christ in Kansas. Unlike Cherry's approach, Crowdy's organization adopted a more structured and less confrontational stance. His followers wore robes, observed certain Mosaic laws, and celebrated Hebraic feast days. The Church of God and Saints of Christ expanded rapidly, establishing congregations in cities across the Northeast and Midwest. As the 20th century progressed, the Black Hebrew Israelite identity became a complex and multifaceted religious expression. Though united by a central belief in the Hebrew ancestry of African Americans, these groups diverged in doctrine, practice, and tone. Some, like the Church of God and Saints of Christ, moved toward a more universalistic and Christian-oriented theology. Others, particularly in urban centers like Chicago, Philadelphia, and New York, developed doctrines emphasizing strict adherence to Old Testament laws and a separatist worldview that rejected both mainstream Christianity and Judaism. The Great Migration, which saw millions of African Americans move from the rural South to urban centers in the North, played a crucial role in the expansion of Hebrew Israelite communities. Urban environments offered fertile ground for new religious movements and afforded greater freedom of expression. In Harlem, during the 1920s and 1930s, groups like the Commandment Keepers Ethiopian Hebrew congregation flourished under the leadership of Rabbi Wentworth Arthur Matthew. Matthew, who immigrated from St. Kitts, founded his congregation in 1919 and espoused a vision of Black Judaism that was both spiritual and ethno-nationalist. He promoted the observance of Jewish laws, Hebrew language study, and even saw connections with Sephardic and Mizrahi Jewish communities. By mid-century, the Hebrew Israelite movement had begun to diversify significantly. Some groups maintained peaceful and devotional practices, focusing on biblical literacy, community cohesion, and moral reform. Others adopted more militant rhetoric, particularly during the civil rights and Black Power eras, when notions of racial pride and resistance to white supremacy became central to African American activism. The socio-political upheaval of the 1960s and 1970s saw a radicalization of some sects, which began to merge Black nationalist ideologies with religious belief. Certain groups began preaching against white people and mainstream Jews, asserting that they were impostors who had usurped the true heritage of the Israelites. These beliefs, although not representative of the entire movement, became the most publicly visible due to their provocative nature and the media attention they garnered. Despite internal diversity, one consistent element across the movement has been its emphasis on reclaiming a lost heritage. For many Black Hebrew Israelites, the identification with ancient Israelites serves as a counter-history to the trauma of slavery, colonization, and systemic racism. It affirms a noble origin predating European conquest and reshapes the narrative of African Americans as not just victims of history, but as central figures in a divine story. This reclamation of identity, however, does not come without controversy. The relationship between Black Hebrew Israelites and mainstream Jewish communities has been fraught with tension. Most Jewish scholars and institutions do not recognize the Hebrew Israelite claim to Jewish ancestry, especially when not accompanied by formal conversion according to Halakha, Jewish law. This tension has sometimes erupted into public disputes, particularly when fringe groups engage in inflammatory rhetoric. Nonetheless, some sectors of the Hebrew Israelite movement have sought dialogue and recognition, and in rare cases, certain individuals and congregations have converted to Rabbinic Judaism. In the latter decades of the 20th century and into the 21st, the movement has continued to evolve. The Internet has given rise to a new generation of Hebrew Israelite teachers and preachers who disseminate their messages through YouTube, podcasts, and social media. These platforms have amplified both the moderate and extremist voices within the movement. Organizations such as the Israelite Church of God in Jesus Christ, ICGJC, and the House of Israel have gained notoriety for their street preaching and controversial doctrinal positions. Simultaneously, more moderate groups like the African Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem, who immigrated to Israel in the 1960s under the leadership of Ben Ami Ben Israel, have focused on community building, health consciousness, and cooperation with local authorities. Today, the Black Hebrew Israelite movement is a reflection of the broader African American religious landscape, vibrant, diverse, and often misunderstood. It encapsulates the deep desire of a people to forge a spiritual identity that acknowledges their suffering while celebrating their resilience and divine election. It is both a critique of the religious status quo and a powerful affirmation of cultural agency. While the term Black Hebrew Israelite encompasses a wide array of groups, ranging from peaceful worshipers to vocal separatists, it ultimately represents an enduring attempt to locate spiritual and historical belonging in a world that has long denied both to people of African descent. As America continues to wrestle with issues of race, religion, and identity, the story of the Black Hebrew Israelites offers a poignant example of how historical memory and theological imagination can combine to redefine selfhood and community in revolutionary ways. Their story is not merely one of fringe religiosity, but profound spiritual searching and cultural reclamation, an ongoing testament to the indomitable human quest for purpose, dignity, and divine connection.